So thank you again, everyone, for joining. At this time, we'd like to get our Q&A and meet and greet started with MomoCon, and want to introduce you to Mr. Chris Stuckey and Miss Jess Merriman. Chris and Jess, thanks so much for joining us. If you want to introduce yourself very quickly and tell us what MomoCon is.
Sure, thanks. Well, I'm Chris.
I'm Jess. We are the co-chairs of MomoCon, and I founded it in 2005. We've been around for a little while. We're happy to run the event. It's really exciting. It's a pretty cool endeavor, and we're always looking to improve it and always looking for new stuff.
Yeah, so MomoCon, we would have had our 16th year in 2020, but thanks to COVID, obviously it did not happen. But as I said, Jess started it all the way back in 2005. So it's been around, about as long as Facebook and everything else on that front. So it's had quite a long journey of growth through college campuses, the hotels, and before moving to the convention center where we're at, and hopefully we'll be again in 2021.
Yep. In 2019, we welcomed just shy of 40,000 unique attendance, and we're looking forward to bringing all of those people back once we're past this whole COVID situation to downtown Atlanta.
Wonderful. So Chris and Jess, what makes MomoCon so unique? I know there are so many anime conventions out there, but you guys are, I think, one of the best ones out there, in my opinion, my favorite convention. So what makes you guys so fun and unique?
Well, we're certainly biased, and I think we think we're one of the better ones, but there's a lot of great ones across the country. In fact, there's probably on any given weekend in the United States alone, probably 4 to 5 anime conventions happening. And, certainly thanks to COVID, that is meaning that a lot of them are doing online events, just like JapanFest and MomoCon did back in May. I would say in a short order, what makes MomoCon unique is the choice of aspects that we focused on, which is animation, both American and Japanese, gaming, and comics. And as it turns out, a lot of the gaming is, of course, from Japan as well. And we've managed to grow these aspects, and they happen to have a lot of crossover. There's just so much interest across all these mediums, as I'm sure people here see Avatar: The Last Airbender as an animation, but a lot of people also see it as an anime, even though it's produced by Nickelodeon in America. And so we've allowed this group of people to kind of grow with us. And as I said, Jess welcomed about 40,000 people this year. So it proves that people are interested in these kind of combination of things, which is not as true for some of the smaller anime events that are across the country.
Very nice. So kind of moving on, tell us about maybe the history of MomoCon a little bit, and what inspires you guys to get started. I know there's a very, very fun and unique kind of story behind everything that you all do, but how did everything get started?
Sure. In 2004, I guess, I was president of the anime club, and we had really good space on Georgia Tech campus at the time, and thought, hey, maybe there's something we could do with this. We'd participated in other local events of various types, and definitely we love Georgia Tech, so we were like, hey, let's give it a try. So we started an anime and gaming convention at the time, which since expanded, and took up the entire Georgia Tech Student Center, and we're really, really floored when 700 people showed up, because we didn't really expect that. But then it was even more shocking the next year when we welcomed 1,800 people, and we were like, where'd all these people come from? It was amazing. So we just tried to put on a great event. We grew from there until 2011. We were on Georgia Tech campus. In 2012, we moved to the downtown hotels and kind of bounced around a little bit there based on our space needs. And then in 2015, we made the big jump to the Georgia World Congress Center, which was pretty exciting. And now in 2020, we were supposed to be moving into Hall B, which is the giant hall of the Georgia World Congress Center. However, since 2020 didn't happen, we're now looking at that for 2021. So
we're definitely looking forward to visiting you all in person next year in Hall B, and maybe all the different halls in the future, right? He can take over the whole Congress Center at some point in the future. But
that's definitely what our sales rep wanted too, was to be able to sell us all 3 halls.
Yes, of course, right? It's all about business, right? Even though, anime is for fun and for kind of cultural exchange. But yeah, so going back to your history, so Jess, you and Chris, you guys were students together, right? And now you guys are business partners and even more. Can you tell us about your personal history with kind of going from your student life to kind of your business life together?
Sure. In 2004, he was just a freshman at Georgia Tech.
Yeah,
so,
started fall 2004.
When I was founding the show, he was involved from the first year, but not in a leadership capacity. He sadly had to sit in a room and watch some we forgot the subtitles on this Japanese movie, and he was the champion, and he sat there and watched the whole thing without the subtitles, not
Well,
speaking
I was
any
supposed
Japanese.
to watch The Room so other people could come in, and then as soon as anybody came in, they're like, does it have subtitles? And I'm like, no.
There was something wrong with the file, and it didn't have the subtitles, and he had to watch the whole thing. And then he got involved with the convention a little bit later in a leadership level, and now we're the co-chairs of it. But then, when did we get married? We got married in 2013. I should remember that. I feel like that's an important thing I should remember.
It's pretty easy. Yeah, it's 10, 11, 13.
13. Yeah. So we've been together for a while. We're not sick of each other yet, especially during COVID, where we spend a lot of time, both business and personal, together. But yeah.
We started obviously together. She was the president of the Anime Club. That's why she was running it. And back in the first few years of MomoCon, the president of the Anime Club was more or less the person on paper responsible for the MomoCon event.
Booking the space.
Because the space, I mean, we had like, I basically became president of the Anime Club. Was that 2006 year? I think it was the fall of 2006 that I became president.
2006, yeah.
And so that was when I became on paper responsible for MomoCon. And that was how I got more involved in the leadership capacity of MomoCon itself. And then later on, we did incorporate as an LLC because we, foolishly were not incorporated while we were on campus. We were a student group. We didn't start thinking about this. And so, fortunately nobody tripped or fell or something like that at the student center. So, but we incorporated to make sure that wasn't happening. And that was when I got even more involved. And then we're equal owners for MomoCon, so 50-50 on that kind of front.
I know you guys are married and business partners too, but tell us about your honeymoon, because I know that has something to do with Japan a little bit.
So when we first got married, we didn't have the money for a honeymoon, so we put it off for a couple of years. But then when we went on our honeymoon, we spent 3 weeks in Japan, and it was pretty great. We spent most of the time in Tokyo, but we hopped around a lot. We went to Kyoto, we went to Hakone, to a hot spring and a traditional ryokan, and we went to Kobe, and we went to Osaka, and I ate a whole lot of takoyaki until I was red in the face. It was kind of great. I'm a big fan of Osaka. It was really great.
It's important to understand also something about Jess in particular is that she really loves Disney. So actually, we landed in Tokyo, and then immediately our first hotel was one of the Disney hotels, the Hilton Disney in near
First
Tokyo.
station we went to was Maihama, and had to ask people how to get there. And it was like, and they're like, "Oh, Disney," and I was like, "Yes, Disney, absolutely, 100%." I felt like if we were easing into a new culture, it would be easy. I speak Disney. I don't speak that much Japanese, but I speak Disney very well. So it felt like it was just a natural.
That was how we started our 3-week trip, and then we spent a lot of time in Tokyo, visited a lot of the the exciting things, and
played a lot of UFO catcher games. Quite a few.
Took the train down to Hakone, and then further down to I guess it was Osaka.
We went to Osaka
first, and then Kobe, because Kobe was more southern than Osaka.
Yeah, it was fun, and we toured around a lot, and it was great. We've been back a few times since then for business purposes. So
we just registered for TIFFCon, which is this big festival, part of the Tokyo International Film Festival, but this one's more focused on animation companies and stuff like that. So we're actually going to be virtually exhibiting at TIFFCon in November for MomoCon in order to try to talk to more Japanese companies to get them more interested in coming to or presenting at MomoCon.
Wonderful. So for all of our lovebirds out there, definitely visit Japan as part of your honeymoon, and I guess for business too, right? So Japan's a great place for all visitors.
You have no idea how many of our friends went to Japan for their honeymoon too.
Yeah,
it's a very popular destination for honeymoon.
All right. Well, just 2 more questions from my part, and then we'll open it up to the audience. But the first is, so as your name implies, MomoCon. For all of our audience members that may not speak Japanese, how did you come up with MomoCon? I think I have an idea, but.
Well, we were trying to think of a clever name. There's lots of conventions out there. A lot of them are named after the place that they're based in, and they're very straightforward. However, we wanted to be a little bit more clever, and so a friend of ours was like, Momo is a cute word, and it means peach in Japanese, and we're in the peach state in Georgia, and so that's kind of where our name came from.
And,
very nice.
And more recently,
Oh,
Got Momo the monster. We have little peaches on his cheeks too. This is a more recent naming convention. We didn't start with the characters initially. We started with our blue-haired mascot. Well, technically, we started with black hair and then evolved to the blue-haired mascot that we had.
and
And
now we have this
and
little
then
kaiju guy,
yeah, we've got
three-headed or
lots of
three-eyed rather.
yeah, we got lots of characters now that are MomoCon related on these shelves, like the blue-haired girl here. Oh, I realize I'm walking it in the camera angle. The blue-haired girl.
There's a lot of stuff behind
Yeah.
us. So
is Molly. We named her in 2015. She didn't have a name before that. But yeah, we've actually now named all of our mascot characters
Yep.
as well.
Well, you guys are so Japanese that you have your own characters, right? That's kind of a very Japanese cultural thing to do, to have a yurikara and then have a character to kind of represent your company and your event. So kudos to you. And then kind of last question from me is, what's the future of MomoCon? Any future aspirations, personally, business-wise? What's MomoCon gonna look like later this year and next year and beyond?
well, coming up, because we're still in a world that is full of pandemic, we are doing another digital event coming up in December. It is 100% for charity. We're sponsoring Feeding America. That's who we're raising money for. And the event is called Let's Get Digital. MomoCon Let's Get Digital. We had a lot of experience running our digital event earlier in May, MomoCon Online. However, a lot of that people really want to go to events and they really want to see each other and they really want to interact. And not all of that translates super well to an online event. So we're trying some new experiments to see how people can engage with each other and how they can get the most out of an online event for the December event. Much more interactive stuff, much more live stuff, ways that people can donate to the charity and influence if somebody's playing a game or if somebody's interviewing a guest or things like that. But we will be doing that December 11th through 13th. And if you want to check it out, digital.momocon.com. In addition, we're looking forward to the future and currently have the next in-person event planned for late May 2021, May 27th through 30th. We are obviously always watching the news, but we're moving forward full steam ahead with our next physical event at the Georgia World Congress Center. So you can look forward to that.
Yeah. So when we think about what the future holds, obviously we don't know what's going to happen because of the pandemic, and obviously we're going to have a lot of changes as a result of the pandemic and how we set up things, even in the first year we're back. So we are actively aware and prepared for any of those kind of things. But more broad strokes, obviously the goal that we have was this was supposed to be the first year we were in Hall B, which is a major expansion. I mean, to put it in context, Hall B by itself is as big as the LA Convention Center, where Anime Expo and E3 are held, which are major events on the calendar that bring in over 100,000 people. And it's as big as that. It's just that one hall because it's so big, and we were going to take up all of it in our first year. So when we are able to get back to the in-person events, the hope is that we can continue growing our attendance, growing the amount of exhibitors and companies, and growing the amount of activities and content that we have available to everybody that's included with their badge. And I did joke the sales rep was trying to sell us on things like Hall C as well as B because they're connected. And the goal is to continue growing, hopefully encompassing more content, bringing in more companies. We want to work with more and more companies to highlight some of the newest media properties that they have, both ones from Japan and ones from the US. And so that's kind of where we hope we can get in the future is even more companies come to us, showcase in extravagant ways, the big booths and setups like that. Had things not happened in 2020 like they did, we would have had several companies come out that would have been part of this year. Someone with 50 by 50 or 60 by 60 booths. I mean, we're talking like really big things with some stuff I don't feel comfortable sharing, but some really big, statues and things that they were planning on building and showcasing as part of the tour.
Just makes us super sad that COVID happened.
Yeah. So we have some big plans and we're hoping to get back to that. Obviously, who knows, exactly what the future holds, but the hope is that we can continue pushing that growth.
Yeah, and it hasn't dampened our excitement either. We're both cautious and planning for the future, but also really excited about the potential.
Yeah.
A lot of people who have either gone to online events or have not gone to online events, everybody's still looking for that in-person connection, and that's a very valuable thing. Mm-hmm. And even with the plethora of online offerings right now, the experience of seeing like somebody in a giant costume is not exactly the same through a screen as it is in person, for example.
While these webinars are really nice, very few events so far have really taken the approach of allowing the attendees to interact with the panelists. Most events so far that have happened online in the fandom space have been one-way directional broadcasts.
Like we're airing a panel or something like that. And it feels more compelling when we're interacting, but even then you can't really kind of capture a lot of that in-person energy. So we're looking forward to when we can have that again.
Yeah.
So we're going to open up the floor to our audience members. But ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. MomoCon, let's go digital December of this year, and then 2021 taking over the World Congress Center here in Atlanta next year. So our first question from Nanami, what is the most difficult part of your business?
Well, we probably have different answers for that.
Well, so our business, so if you were like looking at a list of jobs that happen in America, like usually event planner is one of the most stressful on this list, right? It's like listed of like most stressful jobs in America. Event planner is like number 2 or number 3 on this list pretty consistently. So, and the reason for the stress of the job of event planning is you make plans and then plans change, and then they continue changing over and over and over again, and then the more plans you have, the more things can change. And so you're basically, I like to put it, the suggestion is, it's like spinning a bunch of plates, the whole concept is just, that's the job. And so it's constantly difficult to manage an event that has so many different pieces to it. And as MomoCon has grown from the place it was on Georgia Tech campus to the Georgia World Congress Center, there's so many more pieces. I mean, we try to have content that's available for at least about 16 hours of the day, but we even have content that's 24 hours. So we have 16 hours a day of planned content, and then another 8 hours of overnight content that is also planned, but it's not as strenuous, if you will, as the other 16 hours a day for 4 days, basically. So there's a lot of plans, and those plans generally do go like 90% of the way that you want them to.
It's at 10%. It's at 10%. It's really rough. Yeah. For me, at least, a big piece of it is, since it's a business that I started and that I've been with for a long time, and that involves hobbies and things that, and we work with a lot of our friends and we spend a lot of time with a lot of people, and it's meaningful. But I tend to take criticism a little too personally sometimes, which is a problem because it's not about me. We value criticism a lot, actually, about the event. We take feedback incredibly seriously and implement changes as much as we possibly can. But it's just hard to turn that part off when you're very invested in it.
Well, we run a lot of different aspects of MomoCon. I mean, it's not necessarily clear because we have 1,200 people who volunteer their time for the event. Most of those, like 90% of those people, are primarily at the event by itself, not as much in advanced planning. And there are about 100 to 150 people that are involved in some advanced planning, but a vast majority of that advanced planning is on our shoulders. And we want it that way to a degree, but that's a lot on our shoulders at the same time. And as a result of all of that, we're the ones posting to social media for MomoCon. We don't have a volunteer running our social media. That's us. So we're reading everything that is being said, positive or negative, about the event.
There's no filter.
And we're always the ones posting and involved. So we basically live life where MomoCon is just about always present in our lives, because there's always something to be doing. Even in the middle of COVID, with everything shut down, we've had a million things to do, and it's still been super busy, even without our normal schedules.
Yep.
Well, we have 2 people who wants to ask questions live. Daniel, I'll get to you in 1 second, but we have a special appearance from the co-chair of JapanFest and the chair of the Japan America Society, Mr. Hodge. You want to ask questions to Chris and Jess?
I'll be real quick because I know Daniel-san wants to talk. I just get a personal comment here, and that is that your observation about things that can go wrong and things that take various turns. You got knowing smiles from Lily-san and Domoto-san as you described that, as JapanFest certainly is a vivid live example of twists and turns along the COVID way.
All right, yeah, Daniel. So I'm going to ask a question live.
Am I sounding good?
Yes.
Awesome. So my question is regarding the mascots you showed up earlier. Usually, what's the design process for the mascots? Is it like something that you have with a group of friends that you all like come up with the designs of the characters, or like have you held contests in the past where people can submit like their designs, or how does that usually go?
We've actually done both of those things. It's a little bit, I guess, complicated. Our main mascot design was decided several years ago, where we were working with one particular artist, and then we contract with her, and she has basic features of our main mascot, Molly. She always has blue hair. She always has a specific color eyes. There's certain things that are consistent, and her look is fairly consistent. But then every year we also do a theme, and then our leadership, like our directors and things like that, kind of give some input, and we all decide on a theme. Like our theme in 2009 was cyberpunk, so we went back to our artist that we work with for the primary design, and she does the main thing. Here's kind of the parameters, here's what we're thinking. This character can be this kind of cyberpunk character, this one can be this, and she has a lot of input in it as well. And then we kind of suss out a design. We have 6 characters total, but the little monster doesn't really change. He's pretty much the same. He had a hat in 2020. That's about the only difference. But it's partly collaborative for the
7 characters total.
You're right now, but we don't talk all about that yet. It's not done yet. That's not public yet.
There's 4 letters. Momo,
oh yeah, that's right. There's 7.
There's
8 characters then. But yeah, sorry, I'm all over the place here. We have 7 characters, 6 human characters. But so part of it is done with our directors, and part of it is done with our designer. In addition to our primary designer, we also work with other either guests or community members or other artists that we regularly work with to do different styles of the same character in the same year kind of format. In the past, we have done art contests. We did art contests in 2013 and 2014 for sure. But we wanted to be more consistent so that our brand would be like a little more consistent for the main artwork from year to year. So we contract with primarily 1, sometimes up to 3 artists, depending on the project.
So I'm going to do something here real quick. So forgive me, you're going to probably be jostled around a little bit. But I'm going to share a webcam that we've got here, and I'm going to show you something we have on our wall. So that is our 2005, the first MomoCon. That's the shirt that we had. Let's see. I can't really zoom on this one.
Yeah, but, sorry, this is as far as we can get it.
Yeah.
That's like our program book and like an article from New Type magazine.
But you can see in 2005, she had black hair. This was still the same character that became Molly, but that was the original design vision that we had with the artist that we contracted with.
Yep.
And I'm going to go ahead and switch back here. And so that was what it looked like in 2005. And then that character had an evolution thanks in large part to the artist.
She got more consistent with it. And then we set standards for it. And I think she got blue hair the first time in year 6. And so that was like around 2010.
And our artist largely drove some of the creation of some of the side characters that it started popping up because she felt that she needed some other dynamic action.
Yep. And then we added more side characters to have more variety and to be more representative of our audience and things like that. And all of our characters, if you didn't know, they all have names, and all of their names spell out MomoCon. Like Molly, Oscar, Momo the Monster, Osiris, Carmen, Oliver, and Nora. So all of our characters spell out the letters.
That was a relatively recent thing. I think we made the names for all the side characters starting
16, 17,
and 2018 was the first year we named the side characters.
In 15 we named the hero and villain. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because our theme for 2015 was superheroes, right? So you need to have a superhero name if you're going to do superheroes,
obviously.
Right? And if you have a superhero name, you need to have a name for their not superhero.
Yeah, you're Clark Kent of the world.
So we made the names then, and we named it for our hero and our villain, which the villain was introduced in 2015. She didn't exist before that. And we're working on some, I guess this is kind of a tease for everybody here in the audience, but we are working on a story with the help of a comic artist that we know locally.
Yep, we're producing a comic book with our characters.
It's just like a one-off thing, and it'll help explain some backstory for the mascots and why there's different themes each year.
Yep.
So
we would love to introduce you to our artist and our mangaka, Shirley Susilo, who's done a great job with some of the JapanFest stuff. But maybe you guys can work together. We're running out of time, Chris and Jess, so I'm going to ask a whole bunch of questions into one that came through the chat. So what's the difference between anime and cartoons? The best cosplay that you've ever seen, or maybe homemade rather than bought? And what's the age range of MomoCon's? Maybe you guys can take turns answering those three questions real quick.
Yeah, I will quickly kind of go through them. So anime is more traditionally to describe Japanese animation. Anime generally describes content produced in Japan, or at least where the production was. Even Japan, a lot of the art is done in Korea. Strangely enough, where a lot of the American animation,
yeah,
because Korea is a huge animation house. Like The Simpsons and Family Guy are produced in Korea, even though they're written here, in the United States. So cartoons, again, production describes everything outside of Japan as a cartoon, because there's not really another name.
Well, there's also most people would consider cartoons with I guess a Western mindset, where people would consider cartoons to be aimed at children, although there is a growing segment of adult-oriented cartoons.
Yeah.
Whereas anime is more of a medium instead of a genre. So you have Japanese produced anime that ranges everywhere from for very small children to like, Blue's Clues level type stuff, all the way up to very adult heavy themes, even some XXX title kind of things. It varies a lot. It's more like saying anime is like movies. There's movies that are for kids, there's movies that are for adults. Whereas cartoons in general fall into narrower categories like in the rest of the world.
And for the adult cartoons you referenced in America, they generally are comedic. They don't
they're
really
very comedy based. They're not really as heavy, serious themes.
Yeah. Even when American producers want to get a serious theme animation done, they often go to Japan for that. So like the Animatrix, which was the Matrix films, and then when also we had the Cyberpunk series on Netflix that made
Altered Carbon. Yeah.
They go to Japanese animation studios to make the more serious, dramatic, and action stories.
Yep.
With anime versus traditional American style.
We'll
drawings.
skip.
Best cosplay.
Best cosplay.
So the best cosplay I can think of. Well, the best one I've seen in person. I don't know if anybody watched the 11 o'clock panel yesterday where I was interviewing Abby, ADOS cosplay. She made from Overlord the giant skull guy. He's like a skeleton, but he's enormous, and the whole thing is like 8.5 feet tall, and he has fully articulated skeleton fingers, and her husband actually wears it and can only wear it for about 30 minutes without getting like heat stroke. And in person, it's probably the most impressive cosplay I've ever seen. So
I'm really impressed by the big grandiose cosplays. We had a Gundam in 2015.
Gundam was cool.
Full size, like human.
Well, it's not
full size. Yes, accurately, it's not. It's a realistic style Gundam. It was pretty amazing. But I would say that as a core, cosplay is amazing. But if it can make you feel something when you see it, either it's funny, or whether you're really just impressed by it, that's usually a good sign for cosplay. And I can address the age range of MomoCon really quick. So the average age for MomoCon is about 26 years old. But if we start looking at the median or mode, we're talking about 20, 21, 22 in that range. So we have a lot of young people that attend our event, but we're not as young as a lot of other events. Like some anime events, they're teenager focused. Like that's average age. A lot of anime focused events is like 16, 17. So we still a little bit older, and I credit video games with a lot of that.
Well, comic books helps too. We have a comic book focus, and
tabletop
a lot of
games.
Younger families will come in, like younger kids and like 30-something.
Yeah, we actually do a survey when people register, and they list their favorite fandoms, and I can get their average age and compare it by fandom, and their anime is the youngest fandom that we've got. Other than, technically, it's not quite true. YouTube is the youngest fandom that we've got on the list that register, because it's one of the categories, because YouTube stars are another component for our event.
Is it open to all ages though, or
absolutely?
We're not focused around adult content. We have no 18+ content.
Everything. We have some stuff that can get a little blue in language, but it has a content warning on it. We have nothing that's like 18+ or adult.
Yeah, it's always frustrating for us when we have certain guests that go a little curse heavy, because we tell them up front, do not.
Just be careful with that, and then they do it anyway.
And they do it anyway. You're like, okay.
It's a thing.
Well, on that note, we are coming to time. So, Chris and Jess, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you both take us out by sharing any words of wisdom, messages of hope, or advice for anime goers, anyone who follows J-pop and wants to kind of learn more about MomoCon?
Well, words of advice. If you are stuck at home during COVID, catch up on all the series that you missed, okay? We live in a golden age when there's a ton of anime available online for very cheap, or sometimes free, depending on what it is, depending on the channel. Dial it into your Roku, watch it on your computer, watch it on your TV. There's a ton of stuff out there. I have caught up on so much stuff I never thought I would. So it's not all bad. It's not all bad.
So I would say, as a general word of advice, I think it's really important that everyone understand this day and age the impact that events have had in their lives, and JapanFest among them, and the fact that we've not been able to have these in-person gatherings makes the events that are absent in our lives right now, makes us realize all the more important how they were, and how it was in bringing people together. And I think everyone is responsible for making the events feel special, because it's not, as much as we are event organizers, I think at the end of the day, that we want to think that we did the event, right? The event is actually made up of a bunch of people coming together, and we just happen to set the framework for it. And so the online events aren't quite the same. Sadly, they're not quite the same in that same kind of feeling. And so
definitely support events that you love when they come back.
Yeah, because it's going to be tough for every one of our event organizers and the supporting companies behind them. So it is important to support events, and to, once it is safe, to support them in person as well. So hopefully that's sooner than later.
Yeah, we hope to see everybody at the MomoCon digital event. However, MomoCon Let's Get Digital, December 11th through 13th.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Like you said, it's all about the people-to-people relationship. So everyone listening in, tuning in, support all your wonderful events that you enjoy. MomoCon, JapanFest, events with the Japan American Society, Japanese Chamber of Commerce, and everything. So stay tuned for MomoCon Let's Go Digital in December, and let's get together in person next year for sure. Thank you again, everyone. Thank you to all of our sponsors. We'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.